we're off. This is the first episode of 2025 for basketball.
Insane.
So, welcome back, guys. It's been a minute. I've been hooping it up in Illinois after my Puerto Rico trip. Your
Yeah,
boy Diego went to see the fam in Peru. Um,
yeah, I did do
that's
that.
that's my next spot. I really want to see Peru. So planning a trip out there soon. But how was your Christmas? How was your New Year's? That's a great looking. I don't know if that's a real picture or a portrait, but that looks awesome.
It's
Machu
my
Picchu
mouse
is
pad.
definitely like on my bucket list. But how are you, Diego? How are you doing?
I'm doing good. First off, that was a mouse pad I just found in my grandpa's house, and I took it, so it's mine now. I'm
That's
doing
good.
great. I was kind of sick to start the year, but I started off right with we had a party here at the crib. Um, and I don't know. I'm just excited for the new year. Super locked in because I kind of have to be. I'm super busy, but I'm excited. New year, kind of same me, but also new in the same time, and I'm excited to talk about basketball with my dog right here. That's it. That's all that's going on. Locked in.
I was taking everything so literally, so I was like waiting for you just to pull up a dog that's sitting in your lap, and I was like, I didn't know you
Nah,
got a
no,
dog,
you're my
but
dog. You're my dog,
appreciate it,
Josh.
man.
That's
It's been
that's
that
it.
kind of day, so I'm like, I'm not thinking straight right now. But
Don't worry.
I am thinking right when we talk about basketball, and um, there's a lot of important content to go over that's happened in the last week or so. Starting off with
Yeah.
Bradley Beal, this is a bit of an odd situation for me, like looking into this because you look at the Suns and a surprise benching from what it seems like, um, and well, yesterday's game in Philadelphia, Bradley Beal found out he's coming off the bench. What does he do? He just drops 25. Brian Dunn fills his spot in the starting lineup. He's having a great season, by the way. Um,
Yeah.
and the Suns are now 11th at 16 and 18. There's a
Ooh.
lot of speculation on where that places Bradley Beal, like because of that record and because of where they are in the conference right now. Are they gonna
Hmm.
do a trade to like get Beal out of there and get like more assets to help them on the defensive side? Because that's a struggle point for them right now. Um, but it was just an odd situation. Maybe they just did it to get like a shift to try and like get momentum going into the new year and like this half the season coming up. So um, definitely an odd situation. What do you make of it?
For me, I think the big issue for the Suns is that they put all their eggs in three baskets, as in three basketball players, and they can't do anything. And even other moves that we'll talk about later, they can't even really do those as easily because of what they've done with these contracts with Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, and Kevin Durant. And although you've had them and kind of a big three like we had on the Heat, Heatles, you could say, um, like it just hasn't worked because either one, Kevin Durant's been out, two, Devin Booker's been out, or three, Bradley Beal's been out. They've played. It's like another situation like the KD Nets where they played maybe 19 games together in over 3 years, or I don't know how many years, but it's been difficult there.
But they
And
started
this
eight
year,
and one. They started
they
eight
did
and
start.
one, which is
That was the thing.
remarkable.
They started amazingly, but then Devin Booker's had a few injuries. Kevin Durant went out. I mean, before he went out, people were saying he was the MVP, and I fully agreed. He was him as usual. When he's him, he's helping my fantasy team. Extra him, he was just cooking. And I just think it's a big issue in this what's it called? Not the player like in this CBA where you can't have so much money that you kind of hamstring yourself to then be limited in your trades. That's what the Suns did, even though they weren't expecting that. Maybe they didn't even know that was what was happening. Um, they've kind of put themselves in a hole, and it's a really deep hole that I don't know if they can dig themselves out of at this point. So I think that's the biggest thing.
I think you're slightly overreacting a little bit. They're only 3 games behind your Dallas Mavericks in the
Yo,
sixth
but
seed right now, and
the
they're
West, the
still
West,
they but they can still make the play-in tournament.
oh, they could.
Right now, I think because they are such a talented team, I think
Mhm.
it's just a matter of like trying to figure it out together because you see the optimism and their attitude is kind of like we just got to get hot at the right time. They proved it at the start, so they just got to find that mojo again. Um,
True.
but I do agree by the trade deadline they need to address like their defense because they're eighth worst in the league at allowing points per possession. even though they're 10th in the league in offensive rating. So
Hmm.
now it's just like, okay, when you think about a team with three like mid-range assassins, usually that involves a lot of like ISO ball and
Hmm.
like dribbling the clock out. So how do you transition that into like, okay, you don't want to make it a stagnant offense, but how do you still give KD, Booker, who both took a while to get going. Like Booker, I think was 3 of 16, I think. Like
Right.
starting out, like he had a bad shooting night. So, but Bradley Beal's performance is really valuable yesterday.
Yeah.
But my overall point is when you have three scores like this, they function best when they can just take control of the middle of the court and just get to their shots that they're comfortable with, just
Hmm.
playing in the background. Like, how do you still bring that to the forefront while taking up as much of the shot clock as possible and reducing the amount of possessions that your
Yeah.
opposing team has to take? Because that is one avenue that you could do schematically
Hmm.
to kind of like limit the impact of this rating being the eighth worst. Because they have the players to play that style,
Hmm.
and they're in a difficult situation where it's like where is the balance in doing that and not getting overall offensive rhythm. So
Yeah.
I I think they have the talent to figure it out because if you have like guys like Nurkic and they have guys like Royce O'Neal, like you have
Hmm.
guys that are ready to play second and tertiary roles on like set plays or
Yeah.
like outlets where Nurkic just like an easy outlet like in the paint, and you got like Royce O'Neal
Hmm.
with the spot of three that can
Yeah.
give you occasionally if they decide to collapse.
Yeah.
They have the play style to do it. It's just, do you want to commit wholeheartedly into that the entire time and risk
Hmm.
losing whatever offensive system you're trying to develop?
True. And I think a big thing in that, something I heard on a podcast especially was just like if you want those guys, those three guys to be in the middle of the court, well, you can't have your center in the middle of the court. I mean, Nurkic is a big post guy, so if he's just sitting there in the post, then you have KD like get a mid ranger. I mean, whoever Nurkic's guy is gonna pull up on him,
But just
and
keep Nurkic in like what I would do in that situation is I would keep Nurkic in like the baseline mid range. Keep him in
yeah,
that like
the dunker
spot,
spot.
like right in, yeah, the dunker spot, like right in front
Hmm.
of the corner 3 point line on like either
Yeah,
side, and have him be like almost like an Aaron Gordon cutter if necessary, or just spot up and shoot. If you can get
yeah,
that from Nurkic's game, I think you open up the entire world as far as like the key to any of these offensive scores.
yeah. And I think the biggest thing there is who of the three Sun centers really fits that mold the best. Sit in the dunker spot, wait to cut. Like basically, who is their best Aaron Gordon impressionist? Not Nurkic because he's big, kind of like was his nickname like the dancing bear or something like that. He's just a big burly guy. Like he's not that athletic. Mason Plumlee, yeah, Mason Plumlee is pretty old, and he's just not as athletic as he used to be. But then the real guy, Oso Ighodaro, I really like Oso Ighodaro. He's a 6'10" guy. He can shoot, but I mean it's kind of Aaron Gordon before he got on the Nuggets really, and he's been really one of their best players for that specific purpose. So I think he's going to get some more minutes. But what they really need is just more of that. Another guy that just does that, and that will really help them out. And like we said, open up that middle area for them.
And it doesn't even have to be the center. Maybe it could be their small
Hmm.
forward because what Nurkic does really well too is he sets really good screens at the top of the key.
True. Yeah.
So if you want to bring up the big man and leave that option open to like creating a
Hmm.
mismatch for a step back three or getting
Yeah.
to your mid range, you can do that too. And that allows guys like Okogie or like O'Neal who rotate in, or even Dunn who's playing really well, to
Hmm.
get easy baskets in that area too. So like Okogie's really good at cutting. Like
Yeah.
that's like they need that, and plus like if you ever have somebody on like one like side of the key, like going on like the left side as if you're going for a lefty
Hmm.
layup, you better have another
Yeah.
guy like waiting to do a 45 cut or like cut straight
Hmm.
down from the top of the key to the other side of the basket, just as
Yeah.
another outlet. Um, and I think if you get more off ball cutting, that might be a way to like get around like like I'm thinking of like counters to like defenses that be like, oh, we're not just gonna let you like bleed the clock out offensively because that reduces our amount of possessions. I'm like thinking like how they can stay 2 or 3 steps ahead to keep up that offense rating they already have.
Mm-hmm.
So as I'm like thinking of this like as a strategist, these are kind of like our primary thing is like let KD, Booker, Beal, Cook, whatever that works for them. Like find out
Yeah.
what works for them and just let them do this like every now and then. And
Mm-hmm.
what are your counters to that offensively? Be ready for them to be for teams to be like, no, we're just not going to let somebody go 1-on-1 against KD and hang him out to dry. Well, you got to have a counter-action for that. If they double KD, somebody's open or
Mm-hmm.
somebody's cutting wide open. Like,
Yeah.
how do we generate that look as a counteract to like a style that may help them out with their defensive rating?
Yeah. No, I agree, and I feel like a big thing on Twitter and NBA discourse is like ratings are down. No one likes the players just chucking up threes. And one thing I've noticed in watching is that there isn't as much player movement, at least off ball movement. Like guys kind of just sit around or stand around and like watching the dude like hit like shoot a step back three or whatever. Like that's a big thing, and it makes you so much harder to defend if everyone's moving. And like I keep saying this. I don't know if I've said this recently that all the 5 players on offense should move like the 5 fingers on a hand, all connected and all working together to do things and score. So that was just a little spiel there. But yeah, off ball movement, I like it. I think we need more of it.
Yeah. Um, we need more of these two teams than the Minnesota Timberwolves and the New Orleans Pelicans.
Yeah.
Just reading another article on the Athletic, I found some interesting content on like how ineffective Brandon Ingram and Julius Randle have been like in the modern NBA. And
Mm-hmm.
this is despite the Timberwolves having a slightly better record than the Suns, sitting at 18-17 currently, and the Pelicans who are
Yeah.
7-29. But like you think about where the Timberwolves were a season ago, and the
Mm-hmm.
massive trade they made with Karl Anthony Towns. They still have a
Jeez.
first
Yeah.
round pick in that, but like it's looking really weird for the Timberwolves right now, and for the Pelicans. Um, like trying to trade Brandon Ingram, but it's not working. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like they both these teams have disrupted like what they intended to get out of like their roster with
Yeah.
their cap situations. Like the reason why the Timberwolves made the move is because they wanted to get out of the cap concerns that Karl
Mm-hmm.
Anthony Towns would bring when you're thinking about the future with Anthony Edwards. So they try to get out ahead of it,
Yeah.
but it's like just looking at like how Julius Randle plays, which is very similar to Anthony Edwards, but like Julius
Mm-hmm.
Randle's a lot more mistake prone. There's a lot more flaws in his game. Like it's leading to a more stagnant offense for the Timberwolves, and like combined with Randall, Gobert, and Edwards, the like their plus minus is really bad than like what you expected. Um, and Dante DiVincenzo took a while to get going, and like with the Pelicans, like you try to do the right thing. Like I love Trey Murphy. I would kill for the
Yeah.
Bulls to have Trey Murphy on them. Like
Anyone would.
he and Keegan Murray, like those are two, and Cam Johnson. Those are like
Yeah.
3 guys. If I'm the Bulls, I would do anything to get right now, like because
Mm-hmm.
they bring automatic value like in this new NBA. And the
Yeah.
Pelicans extended. They did the right thing. They extended Trey Murphy,
Mm-hmm.
but like realizing their problems in the playoffs last year, they didn't have a point guard. So then they go and trade for Dejounte Murray. You're looking at their financial situation. Who's the odd man out? Because you would love to keep Zion as well. Well, it's Brandon
Mm-hmm.
Ingram. Like you got to figure out like what to make of Brandon Ingram because when he's
Yeah.
healthy, he was putting up big numbers. I think he was like 22 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. Like that would have been a career
Mm-hmm.
year for him. And
Yeah.
um, like he's doing well like when he's playing, but like the injuries and like the overall team app impact hasn't been there. So then
Mm-hmm.
it's like, okay, what do you do with these guys? Because now you're struggling to try and trade Brandon Ingram. So do you outright just cut him? And then like with Julius Randle, like who's gonna want him? Like
Mm-hmm.
if you see the impact that a contending team had tried to you get him at from like a discount of Karl Anthony Towns. And I think what it's shown is that especially with the amount of money guys are getting, like,
Hmm.
and these levels of tiers of players, like guys like
Yeah.
Brandon Ingram and Julius Randle are great people to have like in a vacuum.
Yeah.
But like with the amount of money they're going at and the team impact they're having right now and the way the NBA is played
Hmm.
is not there. And
It's tough.
therefore they're kind of like if you have those players, you're in like the worst situation possible as a franchise.
No, yeah, especially with the contract, especially like I mean, Brandon Ingram's been an all-star, right? I mean, and so is Julius Randle. They've both been great players, but the amount of money they're able to get, like the max they could get, is kind of it just doesn't align with how good they are. And don't get me wrong, I love Brandon Ingram. Like I was saying earlier before we started recording, I love the mid range. Julius Randle also likes mid ranges, but it's just you can't like the contract. Their contract is like it's either what they want, obviously the most they could get, and validly so, get your bag, whatnot, blah blah blah. Like that's a lot of money, and in the CBA, like I already said, the more money you're using, the less flexibility you have, and that was why the Timberwolves made that trade. So it's kind of tough there. That I think there need to be like better tiering of players to those contracts. So then you're not kind of it's not, oh, I have to sign this guy and commit to him. I have to sign and give him all this money, and then kind of like handcuff myself to this player because then I can't make trades if I go over the second apron, or I don't give him the money and I have to figure out some way to dispose of him and give him to another team to figure that out. And it's very, very difficult. And it's just rough because they're two great players and now they're in this really awkward, weird situation where, I mean, they might want to play where they're at, but they kind of can't play there. The teams don't really want them there. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
because for, like the Timberwolves specifically, you have Nas Reed still playing on the bench. Like, and I think he's
that
entering
was
free
kind of
agency
insane.
soon. So it's like,
God.
is he really gonna want to play on the bench like next season? Like, I think where this is headed is like Nas Reed becomes a starter. Like, if I'm the Timberwolves, I would do that and get out of Randall. Like, if you have to cut Randall, do it and eat the bullet there. Like, because
Yeah.
it's like the way Randall plays like limits the team like offensively, and plus their defensive rating has already gone down by 7 spots. It's like
Hmm.
8, but like you
Yeah.
see, like they're just not together. Like where Randall is not the best defensively because sometimes he's caught ball watching, and that's
Yeah.
that's a huge issue. And then for the Pelicans, you're trying out the Zion and Ingram combination, and it's not been working because unfortunately
No.
injuries and just like the team fit where their real problem was they didn't have a point guard to like set these guys up. These guys had to
Hmm.
create it on its own. And it's like, do you choose Zion or do you choose Ingram? Where you have like the 3 guys I mentioned earlier, you have Keegan Murray, Trey Murphy, you already have them on your team, and Cam
Yeah.
Johnson. I think I would rather swap in the Keegan Murray and Cam Johnson than have Ingram in his contract right now
Hmm.
because especially with the way Zion plays and the way he's dominant in the paint and the way that you made that trade for DeJounte Murray, what you really need is like a spot up scorer who can also provide defense, like as far as the shooter. And
Yeah.
Keegan Murray and Cam Johnson can do that on a much cheaper deal than what Brandon Ingram would command.
No, for sure. The whole Zion thing also just puts the craziest wrench in everything. I mean, this is a guy. I feel like I've said it so many times that we thought he was like the
LeBron
next
part
coming
two.
of. Yeah, like we thought. Yeah, we thought he was just amazing, and it's been anything but. Unfortunately, not his fault. Well, some would say slightly his fault because he can't maintain a good weight. I don't know. I won't talk too much about that, but it's just tough, and I hope for him, for his sake, he can not lock in, but just like get in a place where either he's gonna keep doing this, or if he has to, go away from it. But it's really difficult, and this is the Grizzlies had a season from hell last year. The Pelicans have that this year, and it is rough. It is. I don't know what they should do. Like I was thinking about what to say about the Pelicans, and I'm like, my first thought is, should they just blow everything up? Should they just go nuclear and just say whatever, we're restarting, we
But
tried and
CJ
it didn't
McCollum
work
just went
out?
nuclear, Diego. Like he literally did that.
He did.
So
That was insane. That was kind of wild. That was like weird.
Yeah.
But that was just my first thought because I'm just like you had one stretch where all like the grass was green, you were the one seed, and then it just all fell apart, and it's where we are now. And it doesn't feel like there's any direction. It just feels like they're in limbo.
Right.
And I'm happy I'm not a Pelicans fan. I guess that's kind of it.
I mean, the only thing I'd be happy about is you're headed to the lottery, and hopefully, you get a
You
top
raised the
three
white
pick
flag.
out of it. Yeah.
Yeah. No, this is gonna be a loaded draft class. That's all I'm saying. Kasparis Jakachonis. Remember that name. That's all I have to say.
I have no idea who he is, and I feel like I need to. So that's my homework. That's my homework coming up.
Yeah.
I will remember that if I can spell that. But
Yeah.
another struggling team situation right now that we just caught wind of is the Miami Heat suspending Jimmy Butler for 7 games. This has been like an ongoing dramatic situation.
Mm-hmm.
Decreased playing time, tension going back to when Jimmy Butler said, okay, if I was there, we wouldn't have fared the way we fared against the Boston Celtics and the Indiana Pacers. And Pat Riley opening his mouth and saying, if you're not on the court, shut up, basically. And because of that, the relationship between Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat has deteriorated significantly. So that led to Jimmy Butler making a trade request, Pat Riley being like, no, we don't want to trade him, and Miami trying not to trade him as much as they can. And then eventually PR is like, comes out with a statement on like, okay, we got to trade this guy eventually.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so he hasn't seen usage since his rookie year against the Bulls. Love that Jimmy Butler when he was
Gosh.
playing on our team. Just
True.
that, like, he's such a feel good story, and like it's hard to see him now, like the way he is. And I almost feel like, as much as I love the way Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra do things, I think they screwed up here.
Yeah.
Like you can look at Jimmy Butler's situations on like Philadelphia
Mm-hmm.
and like Chicago, and then
Wolves.
like all like the Wolves, like the altercation with Cat, and you could be like, okay, this is a dramatic guy, but then you see him in Miami and like leading them to one of like the best years they've had in a while before like the big three were there. His finals performance in the bubble, like his performance
Yeah.
against like he's he's really like deserving of being like the number one guy like on that team,
Mm-hmm.
and to see him not play like that because you want to prioritize Hero and Adebayo is slightly understandable. But at the same time, it's like when you got this player, you were hoping that he would still be the same player he was while Hero and Adebayo get up to speed as like the players they are now.
Yeah.
Like you weren't hoping to get rid of Jimmy Butler because now you have guys that can take over spot. You were hoping to have that unfair advantage and create that by having three
Mm-hmm.
superstars on the team. That was the
Yeah.
goal if you're the Miami Heat. So I think I think this is a screw up on Pat Riley's part. Um, I think when you're looking at the optics of this, I think it was purely you. He said this out of stubbornness and was like trying to set a standard when Butler is a class personified guy who always gives high effort, and as like a
Yeah.
franchise, as storied as the Miami Heat, that should be celebrated. Like because like no matter what no matter what a player's stats are, you want to play hard. You want your team
Mm-hmm.
to play hard. You want your players to play hard. And Jimmy Butler's not giving any lack of effort when he's been on the court. So I just think it was just something that didn't need to be said by Pat Riley and frankly Jimmy Butler as well. But like once he said that, it's like, okay, sure. Like
Yeah.
players are gonna say whatever they want to get themselves up to play at the level they need to play at elite levels. So I think it's a situation that could have been easily avoided, and now they're stuck in a financial decision to make with this guy.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is like the Heat, Pat Riley, they made their bed with this. I mean, they didn't extend him during the summer, and they were just like, well, we'll see what happens in 2025 and we'll decide there. And now, like, I mean, that could be part of the disgruntlage, or how disgruntled Jimmy Butler is that he hasn't gotten paid. But I also think what he wants is a bit excessive for a 35-year-old guy who gets in. Like I don't he like intentionally doesn't he doesn't intentionally get injured, but he doesn't have the greatest health record. But obviously he's worth some money because he's a guy who can carry a team to a finals when no one expects him to be able to make that. So I think it's a really weird situation, and but the Miami Heat, they didn't help themselves. They could have either traded him, or well, I don't know if they could have traded him, but they could have extended him. But then they just kind of put it off, kicked the can down the road, and
Now he's
maybe
wearing
that's part
different
of the
hair
whole
colors
reason.
for each team he
Yeah,
wants to be traded to. So like,
like you had to know what you were playing with. Like we all know what Jimmy Butler is like. We all know if something takes him off, he's not gonna let it go. And for better or for worse, that's what's happening here. He wants something that he don't want to give it to him. He doesn't feel joy. He doesn't feel that joy playing the game for this team. So I don't know. I don't know what they should do. I mean, obviously you want to try to trade him, but the fact that they haven't traded him yet has to say something that no one really wants him that can get him.
or they're just
So
waiting out the value. Typically in this situation, they're like,
mhm,
okay, the player doesn't want to be there anymore, so we'll
yeah,
just wait a couple weeks because now then we'll know the
mhm,
Heat will cave and lower
I
their
will.
asking price. So this is
Yep,
what is happening here. They're teams are trying to like get him at the lowest price possible.
yeah, for sure.
So
It's tough. It's tough, but
yeah,
we'll
what's
see,
also
man.
tough in a good way, LaMelo Ball. I did a check in
Yeah,
just to see how he was playing. Also watched Thinking Basketball. I don't know if I mentioned it before, but that's a great. Ben Taylor does great stuff on his podcast,
yeah,
and like the
good
clips he
content.
has of like LaMelo Ball's like play style, and I think just watching him play, like he can make any otherworldly pass in the game
Hmm.
if he has to. You're talking about cross court, like half court, like lob heaves, like just like crazy footwork finishes.
Yeah,
Like he could do whatever he wants when he has the
you
ball
do
in
it
his
all.
hand. Like this guy's shooting like Dirk fadeaways from three, like and Steph range, which is just
Hmm.
insane. And he he's like kind of like I don't want to say he's like a modern day Kyrie because he doesn't have like the finishing
The
ability
handle.
that
Yeah,
and the handle that Kyrie does.
the
But
nasty handle. Like he has
he
a
has
handle, but it's not
like
insane.
he's just as creative as Kyrie.
Hmm.
Like he just does it in a different way where it's like kind of like a staggered, awkward footwork kind of deal,
Yeah.
and it's more from like a setup standpoint. Whereas like Kyrie does it just to create like a scoring opportunity
Yeah.
for himself in a weird situation. So it's a little bit different with the way LaMelo does it. Um,
Hmm.
and I think he's opened up all the potential in the world, like to be one of the best point guards in this league very, very, very soon. Like
Yeah.
I think the weird situation is the team situation he's in right now because typically when you're trying to get a team like stuck in the mud like the Hornets are, like
Yeah.
you're hoping to have like a bunch of young guys grow together, but just like
Hmm.
watching like how LaMelo's play style is, like he often misses like for
Wide
all the
open
crazy
passes.
passes he has, like this the wide open passes or like the easy reads. Like sometimes he'll take a shot up on himself when there's a guy like literally sitting on the other side of the key on the block, wide open, nobody's guard, where he could just stop, do a Luka Doncic where he doesn't even jump up. You'll just like
Yeah.
shoot it while his feet are on the ground in a slow
Hmm.
manner. And he misses those reads. And he turns the ball over a lot and there's still room for him to grow offensively. So I think right now, like his play style is limiting the players around him,
Hmm.
and I almost wonder what he will look like on like a different team situation where like you have a lot more established veterans and you have guys that could play to his play style almost. So
Yeah.
I'm like kind of conflicted when I look at LaMelo because I'm like he's there. Like he has everything you want in the offensive book
Everything.
except for a couple things that he needs to work on.
Yeah.
But like it's just like does he need to be in a different situation to really garner more attention to like how impressive he's been looking this season?
I think the biggest thing is, like we said, he has all the skills in the world. He can do anything, literally anything. But he's just too he's too caught up in making the flashy play, or like the play that looks the best. I mean, like when I play FIFA with my roommates, I get most of them trying to like be out of the box, finesse shot, right top bins in the top corner. Like it's the hardest shot you can take. And that's what LaMelo is trying to do. He's trying to like uh like I've heard like LaMelo has such a like Instagram like trendy friendly game because everything he does is just like insane. Like you want to see what he's doing. It's entertaining,
And you know
but it's
what's
not
also
necessarily the
insane?
best basketball. Yeah,
He's averaging 14 threes a game.
that's wild. That's like I think he's leading the league in threes taken and maybe made. He's somewhere in that like ballpark, and it's just and he's shooting. He's shooting these wild threes. Like in that Ben Taylor video, he shoots one where he faked. He jumps into the defender and just chucks it at the basket and makes it. And he's shooting over like 33% on these. Like
Yeah,
imagine if he just shot normal shots, how
right,
he would be.
right.
Like it's just like he's just too caught up in the
Well,
flashy
I
plays.
I mean, well, the easy passes though, like missing the easy passes, I can't. I see where you're going with this, but I can't definitively say like he will shoot a higher percentage. I'm confident he will shoot a higher percentage when he takes
Yeah,
normal threes. But it's like,
yeah.
how do you get him to play that way? And maybe it'll take a couple more years in the league for him to eventually realize like this is way too inefficient. I'm expending energy on a defensive
Mm-hmm.
end because I'm taking such a difficult shot or I'm making this look difficult. But like let him play like Pete Maravich, man. Like the guy's just having fun. I
Yeah.
think the one thing he can get better at is off ball movement. I
Oh,
think
for
that's
sure.
the one thing we haven't seen from him. Where it's like if he has that, he'll allow like players on his team to get better because then you'll start to have like the connectedness. I'm like, oh, LaMelo's just not like trying to ball hog and like take his
Mm-hmm.
14 threes a game and just only have the ball in his hands. Like if he can prove to be like equally dangerous without the ball
Yeah.
and like set up guys in better situations, make those easy reads.
Yeah.
I'm willing to put a top five ceiling on him as a point guard. As crazy as that sounds with the point guards we have right now playing the way they are.
I mean, like this guy's been an all-star, and that was in like 2020 or something. Like he's been an all-star. I mean, he can do this. It's like more just in his head of playing better. And I think the biggest hope I have for him to get better is that he's being coached by Charles Lee, a guy who has just won a championship with the Celtics. If anyone could get a guy to play the right way, you hope it's someone that was just on that team. Now, also like that's maybe why he's also jacking up 14 threes a game because he's being coached by a guy who just was on the Celtics. So
That values that. But I will say,
yeah.
like, he's, I'd say he's like kind of in the same boat Ja was in a few years ago, where it's
Mm,
like
yeah.
he's, I probably pick Ja over him right now, just
Oh, for
because of like
sure.
the maturity that Ja's had, especially from
Hmm.
like off the court instinct and
Everything.
on the ball. Like he's like Ja's much less like reckless as he was a couple years
Now,
ago.
yeah.
But it's one of those situations where like LaMelo Ball is like showing his superpowers, but also like trying to figure out what those are like in like an atmosphere where that's rare. Like what he has is rare. So
It
then it's
is.
just like, okay, how do we channel this and like be a little bit more smarter, have more control, like efficiency with the offense? Because efficient possessions are going to give you a chance on defense to be better,
Hmm. Yeah.
whether or not your defense is inherently good. So I think because you think about like the Hornets, like if they go up
Hmm.
against like the Celtics or the Knicks or the Cavaliers right now in their conference, what
Yeah.
are the issues with LaMelo's turnovers per game? You're given free possessions in transition. That's the
Hmm.
worst spot to be in if you're the
Yeah.
Hornets and doing that because as it is, inherently those teams are more talented. The last thing you want to do is give them more possessions to like
Hmm.
that are easy and not earned to lessen your odds of winning that game
Yeah.
because the talent around LaMelo has
There
potential,
is some
but is
talent.
not
Yeah.
being used to the point where like LaMelo has to grow that point of his game.
Yeah. To John Saloon, he could be good. Rookie this year. I think he's French. Basically like a 3 and D way. I think he's like 6'10". Demon. Brandon Miller. could be the perfect guy to pair with a dude who's gonna handle the ball all the time in LaMelo. Josh Green, good defensive player. Vasily Micic, good second point guard. He was a demon with Serbia. That was kind of insane what he did there. That's kind of it. All the guys I'm thinking about. Oh my God, the guy that they said looked like AI with the baggy shorts. Trey. He was on the Thunder before. He was pretty good at the beginning of the season. It was Trey something.
Trey, man.
Trey, man, yes, he was really good.
I'm so disappointed in you. After all the raving I did about Diabate against the
Diabate as
Bucks.
well.
Okay, thank you.
But Diabate is more just like he's just a base center. Like you just throw the ball at the rim and he's gonna catch it and dunk it, get
Do you
those
want me to pull up
rebounds.
that game stats against the Bucks and
Well,
how many offensive rebounds he had?
how many
dude?
free throws has he made? Tell me that exactly. Like I'll give him his props as a regular center, and that's just what he is. He's just a smaller Tyson Chandler.
Okay, Musa, I'm sending you this clip right now.
All right.
This guy just disrespected you. She said he can't be a top 5 center in the league.
All
Prove
right.
me wrong right now.
I will. In this era. Yeah. Top possible. No, I don't know if he'll be top 5, but Illinois center Tomislav Ivicic, 7'1", went 6 and 9 for 3 in one game. That's all I have to say. That guy.
Jeez.
That is a top 5 center in the future. Be scared. Anywho, that was just completely.
Who?
Oh yeah, we'll need him if maybe guard one to be. I don't even know. But
Dude,
yeah,
that game yesterday, the Bulls and the Spurs was insane. Like I was not expecting them to come back the way they did because they were just so
Spurs are
scared of
feisty.
Wemby. But like, yeah,
Feisty.
it's the Bulls are the cardiac kids lately. Like it's
True.
been insane. Like how many wins they're just pulling like against the Knicks, like the Spurs. You're just like, man, they actually came back and won. Wow.
They might be winning too much. I mean, what is the goal, right?
It's like paying Derrick Rose's legacy, of course. What are you talking about?
I mean, true. They're gonna retire his jersey. That was so awesome. I saw he opened up a flower shop in Chicago. That was fire. He played on in I don't know what, like he played on the court of his high school court with his son. Awesome.
Yeah, because it was the Suns. I think it was his last game at Simeon, so like he took the court with him.
Fire.
So that was awesome to see.
Yeah. Shout out Derrick Rose. If anyone hates Derrick Rose, you're absolutely canceled. That's just facts.
They should have won a chip. That just saddens me.
That's true.
Like the 2015 series against the Cavs, like if it were not for the refs not catching David Blatt calling a timeout when he didn't have one,
yeah,
we won that series. I firmly believe that. That swung all the momentum in that game because the Bulls were up 2-1. They were up. I think it was a tie game, or they would have got free throws out of that, or something like that.
They get the ball.
And because the refs missed it, they gave like LeBron an opportunity to win.
LeBron James. Might go
second best of all time. But all right. Thank you guys for watching. I'll leave Diego mad about that, but follow us on our Instagram page at amon.a.mission. Follow our YouTube at amon.mission. New Year's resolution. I should get some content up there on the social media. So it probably will never happen, but
we're getting there.
I'm gonna say this to make myself feel good about it. But until then,
accountability.
take care.
See ya.